everyone, this is Yanilin and welcome back to my gaming channel. Today we will discuss the story behind Xigbar's character, what exactly is the final world, and why there were no Final Fantasy characters in this installment. This is part 4 of the Kingdom Hearts Ultimania series, so make sure to subscribe to this channel for more. The link to the translation of this section is in the description box below, so feel free to use it as long as you credit this channel. Yanilin Channel. Our interviewer, Akira Yamashita, asks, "The Dark Seeker saga has been completed this time, but since when did you think about this ending?" The idea of the Dark Seeker saga began since Kingdom Hearts 2. At that time, the outline of the story was somehow decided. There are parts that has changed from the first concept while writing the scenario, in the same way as characters move by themselves, which manga artists often say, but the major plot has not changed. Since Kingdom Hearts 2, Nomura-san already had the ending in mind, and although there were some changes during the course of the development, the main plot still remained the same. It's interesting that he mentions how characters move by themselves, which is a common phrase used by Japanese novelists and manga artists. This refers to how the personality of a character may determine the course of action in a certain situation, even though that wasn't what the writer originally intended, which Nomura-san elaborates in the next question. For example, in Kingdom Hearts 2, it turns out that the anthem that appeared in Kingdom Hearts 1 was not the real anthem. Was this the setting originally intended? While writing the scenario for Kingdom Hearts 1, I myself thought, Ansem is supposedly wise, but isn't he too much of a villain? Because of that feeling, it was reflected in the settings from Kingdom Hearts 2 onwards. Following this example, Nomura-san originally intended for Ansem in Kingdom Hearts 1 to be the only Ansem in the entire series. But seeing how his personality does not match the so-called Ansem the Wise, Nomura-san decided to introduce the real Ansem the Wise and adjusted the story from Kingdom Hearts 2 onwards, based on how he felt about Ansem from Kingdom Hearts 1. When Xigbar appeared in Kingdom Hearts 2, I did not think he was such an important character. I get that comment quite often, but it's been my intention since then that Xigbar is a special character, so I made him move suspiciously on purpose. While listening to the voice of Hochu Otsuka, the Japanese voice actor of Xigbar, during the voice recording of Kingdom Hearts 2, I felt that he is not just a mere soldier of the organization, but must have a hidden agenda. So his character evolved during the middle of production to what he is now. I sometimes get inspired by the actors' voices to change the character settings. So from the very beginning, Xigbar is said to be a special character, and you'll notice his suspicious moves early on in the series. But it was the voice of the Japanese voice actor that determined Xigbar's fate. Who would have guessed he'd have a much bigger role before that epic reveal in Kingdom Hearts 3's epilogue? But wait, looking back at the previous titles, there may have been hints that Xigbar or Brig is not who he thought to be, but rather he was Lushu all along.
Every Keyblade master is bequeathed a Keyblade of his very own. With the passing of time, as you can imagine, more and more Keyblades were forged to be handed down. But of all the Keyblades in existence, Master Xehanort's is the most ancient. That is my destiny. But it has yet to become a reality.
Hey, it's okay. This is all connected to the ancient Keyblade War, isn't that right? Whatever. I got my hands full with my own plans. So, which poor soul will it be?
I think I need to play everything again. Fun fact, Hochu Otsuka also voices characters from several well-known animes, including Abuto in Gintama and Jiraiya in Naruto.
俺たちは義理や金でも動かねえ。野党が動くとき、それはそこに血の匂い煙る戦場があるときだけだ。なんて言われてたのは昔の話でね。なんてことはね、こっちはビジネスでここ来てるだけだ。
何すんだってばよ。
なに、リラックスするツボをついたのよ。いいからもう一度水の上を歩いてみろ。の。
ったく。
ああ、なんと麗しき自己犠牲の精神。これが光の心を持つ者のなせる技というやつか。
何が言いたいんだ。
単純明快。自己犠牲はやめとけって話。よう、ジャック・スパロー。迷子になったのか。教えてやろう。お前の持ち場は船底だ。
Moving on, in the Keyblade Graveyard, at the final stage of the story, all the allies and foes gathering together was such a masterful development. Each fan has different favorite characters, so I wanted to give everyone a fair show. But there were too many things that needed to be explained, so I narrowed it down to the necessary minimum depiction in order for Sora to move forward for the time being. When I was writing the scenario, the Keyblade Graveyard was actually the most difficult. If I focus on each individual character, I can illustrate the development carefully, but it was a situation where it was absolutely necessary to operate Sora to battle, so it was difficult to adjust how much explanation was needed. Ideally, characters with certain relationships should fight and settle in sequence, but the explanation will be too long. On the other hand, there may be a method in which only a few enemies are actually in battle and the rest are finished with only a cutscene, but that won't be satisfying. After a considerable amount of struggle with these intentions in mind, I decided to land on the development we have now with emphasis on its tempo. This has been the most emotional part of my entire playthrough, and I assume most of you fans felt the same way too. But as Nomura-san said, this was the hardest part to write among all the scenarios in Kingdom Hearts 3. Imagine if Nomura-san decided to let each character fight it out one by one, just like how Aqua fought against Vanitas in the Land of Departure. Does that mean we could have played as Roxas or Ventus if that was the case? But it was vital to play as Sora during those battles, that it wasn't an option to play as other characters. Though I'm so glad that Nomura-san didn't end up with leaving everything to just cutscenes. It wouldn't have done justice to the struggles that these characters have been through. And the fans wouldn't be satisfied without battling against these iconic villains after all the years they've waited for the release of this game. Overall, Nomura-san did a splendid job on keeping a balanced rhythm between battles and cutscenes in this epic endgame. The final world has appeared as an important place in the story. What kind of world is there? It is a place where people at the brink of death reach and are connected to the Station of Awakening. Until now, the Station of Awakening was shown as a foothold of stained glass in a dark space and expressed what is inside one's heart. But this time, I want to make it more specific and set the final world as a place like a portal of each heart. As it is said in-game, the edges of sleep and death touch. The image is like when your heart is asleep, you are in the Station of Awakening. And if you move further, you arrive in the final world. All this time, Sora's been hanging between life and death? But on a serious note, the Station of Awakening has been an important aspect of Kingdom Hearts since it was introduced at the very beginning of the series. This area serves as a tutorial for players, and they choose how their character will grow throughout the game. In terms of the story, the Station of Awakening depicts what's inside the heart during sleep, as we've seen many times during Sora, Roxas, and Ventus's dive to the heart. And as Charity describes in Kingdom Hearts 3,
The edges of sleep and death touch, and one can't help the occasional crossover.
which leads us to the final world, where Nomura-san imagines it as a portal for each heart, either just asleep or in a state of limbo after their body perished. There were several nameless hearts that Sora encountered in the final world, but it's hard to distinguish who is dreaming and who actually died but hasn't moved on to the afterlife. I'm guessing the boy who was looking for his father was just dreaming and accidentally stepped into the final world, and the person who was defeated was killed by his rival and is in a state of limbo. But these are just assumptions. The only ones we're certain of is Namine and the Nameless Star with a female voice, both of whom Sora talked to. After everyone was engulfed by the demon tide in the Keyblade Graveyard, Namine, who was residing in Kairi's heart, ends up in the final world, and the heart of the Nameless Star was taken away by a somebody. There are theories on who the Nameless Star might be, but that's for another video. Is there a reason why the characters in the Final Fantasy series did not appear in this installment? We simply had no room. Because there were a large number of characters appearing in the main story, it was not possible to prepare an appearance for the Final Fantasy characters as a result. Though I did ask the staff to create Leon's polygon model at least, I asked them to create Cinderella's fairy godmother as well. But even until the end, I wasn't able to prepare a place for them to appear after all, so the production staff got mad at me. One of the key aspects that made Kingdom Hearts so appealing is having Final Fantasy and Disney characters in the same world. Final Fantasy characters have been present throughout the series, but this time, Nomura-san decided to opt it out in Kingdom Hearts 3 due to the sheer amount of original characters involved. In addition, Tai Yasue, the co-director of Kingdom Hearts, has revealed some more information about the lack of Final Fantasy characters in his interview with Game Informer. He says, "We had a lot of original characters. It's the conclusion of the Xehanort saga, and we really wanted to concentrate on the main storyline of Kingdom Hearts, such as Sora and Roxas, for example. They're having all these stories in other games, and we wanted them to conclude." This further confirms that they wanted to focus on the conclusion of the Xehanort saga and finally have resolutions for the poor souls who suffered from his madness. Feeling sad about not having the staple Final Fantasy characters such as Leon, Aerith, and Yuffie is an understatement. We would have loved to see the resolution between Cloud and Sephiroth and have newer Final Fantasy characters such as Lightning from Final Fantasy XIII and Noctis from Final Fantasy XV. But it's amazing to see how much Kingdom Hearts has evolved from depending on Final Fantasy characters to sell on its first release to being a standalone game now that fans are more excited to see the original characters. Well, not really standalone since they still have Disney characters. And that concludes the fourth section of the interview. So what are your thoughts on this interview? If they were to add Final Fantasy characters in the next installment, who would you want to see? Let me know in the comment section down below. In our next video, we will discuss the appearance of the foretellers from Union Cross in the epilogue, who the chess pieces represent in the new game, and the location of Sora and Riku in the secret movie. If you're in Japan or have access to Amazon Japan, I highly recommend getting the Ultimania, even if you can't read Japanese. I'll put a link in the description box below. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you want more videos like this, feel free to subscribe to this channel. Don't forget to hit that bell button so you won't miss my next video. 짠해!